Man, what's happening, man? You got Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch,
Doug Hendrickson,
and Gavin Newsom, and you're listening to Politickin.
June on the beat. June on the beat.
Well, coming up next, Doug and Marshawn, we've got George Lopez. Doug, how the hell did we all meet George? You're the one who introduced all of us.
Well, I met George initially through our good friend Pat Monahan, lead singer Train, and George became good friends when I brought him to the Raider game. And guess who picked him up? Me and you. And then we went to the Raider game. Met Marshawn.
you said you got a surprise guest, and we just need to pick him up. I was all bummed out. I'm like, I want to get to the game, Doug, and we had to go off site, pick him up. I'm like, oh, there's George Lopez. What a coincidence! And you say, no, that's who we're picking up. And he had a couple friends, and we threw him in the back of the car and made our way over to the Raider game. And by the way, what a phenomenon, just walking around that Raiders game with George. And I mean, you talk about 99% approval rating. That's George Lopez at a Raider game.
No, it was nuts. And then after the game, we went to Marshawn's store and we had some tequilas and had a good time. And the rest is history. And here we are today on Politickin.
The minute I saw you guys had a podcast, I'm like, well, I'll be expecting a call from the governor.
Were you singing now? What do you got? You got a song for us? The hell is that?
I got a lot of guitars in this room.
Well, listen, Gavin and Marshawn, we want to welcome literally one of the funniest comedians of all time, a legitimate A-list movie star, a TV star from the George Lopez show, Lopez Tonight, and now currently Lopez v. Lopez, an avid golfer, a kick-ass, massive Raider fan, great friend of all of us, in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, in the California Hall of Fame, Gavin, that you inducted him to.
What's up?
Yeah,
my guy.
Yeah, the peak of your existence.
George, welcome to Politickin, man. We're excited to have you, bud.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
It's good to see you, brother.
What room is that, George? That's a great room right there.
Yeah, man. You know, I sold flowers when I was 15 to try to raise $100 to buy a guitar, and because all my friends were buying guitars and stuff, and instead of friends, I think I went and had
God damn
real guitars. You know, I was friends with Eddie Van Halen, and this black guitar right here is one of four. It was one of his.
Wow.
I like it.
If some shit goes down, I grab that one and get out of the house.
Let me take you back, George. One of the things we talk about in the show is, people's upbringings and how they get, how Marshawn got to where he's at today and other people and whatnot. Obviously it's documented, but your mom left you, your dad left you, and you ended up where you're at today.
Damn, Doug, I thought you said you was finna give a good introduction. That ain't how you start.
It goes right to the womb.
You don't just come on.
Early childhood.
Your mama left you.
You missed my intro.
Damn.
I didn't need him. I didn't need him.
Hey, man, make the motherfucker feel comfortable before he get up in here. You know what I'm talking about? God damn.
I know George well enough. Me and George have
I
had
went to
good
go get
nights
the
together.
guitar while that shit was going down. But
Oh, okay. Shit.
But before like people can manifest things. It depends. Everybody has the mind. As long as you have a mind, you have the ability to change things. You have ability to move yourself forward. You have ability to be in or out, and I spent a lot of time by myself. I was an only child. Even today, I don't talk to my family. I don't, really, they weren't very nice to me. And I would watch TV and I would, I watched Red Fox. I watched The Tonight Show. In 73, Freddie Prinze became like a huge influence to me. He passed to commit suicide in 77. And then in 2006, before I went into the Walk of Fame, I said, if Freddie Prinze doesn't go in, I'm not going in. So they got him in there and his family was there. And when I was a kid watching Chico and the Man on Friday after Sanford and Son at 8:30, my time spot, October 18th, is the same time spot that Chico and the Man had in 1974, and now I have it in 2018.
I like it. You guys, so you just got to know Freddie, on the TV, but you guys got to know him personally, I imagine, as well.
Junior,
right?
the son. Yeah, there's a whole, listen, man, I'm a strange cat, man. I would go to Forest Lawn and I would just, I don't know if I would pray or I would just wish, I was in high school, that things would go my way. You know, you don't really know. I mean, I wasn't the smartest, you know, kid. And I ended up, you know, fucking Latinos, if anything's loose, you know, hey, it was already loose. Hey, I stole I stole Freddie Prinze headstone in like 1978. It was already loose. I mean, you know, so I used it as incentive to think that I could become a comedian, that I could be successful. And the day that I got him the star in the Walk of Fame, I think I closed that circle of felony theft from a cemetery and put him in.
But I mean, I thought you were being figurative. You literally took the damn, you took the actual headstone. Where the hell did you put it? Where is it? You still have it?
I still have it. Yeah. I mean, and the craziest part, I went with my grandmother to Thrifty Mart, and you know, they have all the tabloids, you know, at the checkout stand, and there was a globe, and there was Freddie Prinze's mom, and it said, "Grave robbers are trying to steal my son." That was me.
Oh shit! So you've been making headlines
forever. Yeah. I mean, you know, when you feel hopeless, man. I mean, how hopeless you have to be that you stole a headstone in order to motivate you.
But hey, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. I mean, but when you took it, I mean, did I hear you right? You said you still have the damn thing?
I still have the same thing, but I still have it. But me going in before Freddie Prinze, they had forgotten about him. But putting him in the Walk of Fame and then me going in was my way of saying, you know, sorry, I took the headstone. But you know,
did you tell him?
I needed it more than it needed to be in that vault.
Oh, so man, he was. I mean, is that I mean, so that if you look back, I mean, there was no sort of more. I mean, he was it. He was the guy. He was it. Yeah. He was, for you, this sort of manifestation. You talk about manifesting. Yeah. He was it.
And you know, I would be drinking with my friends in high school, man. And you know, at some point, you know, when the first Latino says, "I'm not afraid to die," you know, everybody's had too much, you know, and all these guys are like, "Hey, you know what, man? I'm not afraid to die." They're like, "Oh, all right," but I would get sad and I would cry about Freddie Prinze because I was 17, 18, and I would be crying, and my friends would be like, "What the fuck is this dude's thing, man? Like, hey, man, I'm not sure if that's like healthy or what you got going on, but I mean, dude, you gotta get. You didn't even know him, right?" I said, "No." I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, I still love him, but I mean, I don't think I'd do that anymore. But I appreciate what he gave me and what he gave me. And what I needed to get to a level where, you know, when nobody believes in you, you find solace in a cemetery marker.
Yeah. So George, in high school, were you doing you know, comedy classes? Were you doing acting? What were you doing in high school?
No, you know, I played baseball. You know, at San Fernando High, you know, the Charles White, all the Williams brothers, Manfred Moore. So USC had the pipeline to San Fernando High. A lot of guys came out of there. So there was this Captain Kangaroo looking teacher that was the drama teacher at San Fernando High, Mr. Schaefer. And I had seen that he was a comedian and he had performed at Coconut Grove in the Ambassador where Robert Kennedy had gotten shot there. So I went to him. I went into the side door and you know, he was teaching a class, so I'm there. You see my silhouette. He's like, "Can I help you?" I said, "No, I'll come back." And he's like, "What can I do for you?" I said, "You know, I heard that you were a comedian. You know, I want to be a comedian." And this guy says to me, "So do you think that that I should take time away from my class to teach you about stand-up? Stand-up, you can't teach stand-up. You have to do it. You know, you think that I should take time away from this class in order to?" I said, no. I said, "No, I'm sorry I even came in here." You know, and this guy, man, just like, man, tore into me, you know, and
what a fucking dream killer, George. Jesus.
Oh my God. In 2004, my book, Why You Crying, was on the bestseller list, and I put him in there, and I told him to go fuck himself in my book.
Well, let's say his name again. What's his name, George?
His name is Mr. Schaefer. He was
hey, Mr. Schaefer, go fuck yourself too.
Man, everybody had a punk ass teacher named Mr. Schaefer.
I would only say for somebody to go fuck themselves, and that's my line right there. You know, a lot of people don't believe, and that's fine. Who's to say? But when it does happen, people go silent. You know, nobody. You know, I have more people call me if things go bad than when things go good, and culturally, that's a terrible thing to be around.
But George, I wonder. I mean, in hindsight, I imagine it had to be a hell of a motivator at the same time, right?
Oh,
Prove
yeah.
him wrong, get him in a goddamn book, keep going, the grit, have him in the back of your mind all your life.
Absolutely. When I was doing my first show, the woman who played my mom came into my dressing room one time, and she's like, "Can I ask you a quick?" Because I was comedian, nobody had ever heard of me really, and she goes, "What motivates you? What motivates you?" And I said, "Spite." And she's like, "That's not really healthy." And I said, "Hey, it got us here." And she's like, "Yeah." So I don't know a spite so much anymore, but in the beginning, I felt like everybody was against me. And that's the way I had to feel in order to succeed. If I felt, well, you just have to feel like I didn't have any other options, but I don't know why I made myself feel like I had any other, but I put myself in an adversarial position in order to dig myself out of that.
How the hell was there anything or anybody after that experience that motivated you or got you back on, gave you that sense of confidence?
Yeah,
and hope?
My baseball coach, when I was getting ready to graduate, we had done a car wash in order to raise money to get equipment, and I hadn't sold. I was shy. I wasn't a guy to go asking people if they could buy car wash tickets. So when I gave him the tickets back, he said, "You owe me $250. I said, "For what?" "For the tickets you didn't sell." I said, "Well, I didn't sell any." "Yeah, but you took them. You're liable for the $250. I said, "I'm not giving you any money," And he and I went nose to nose. I was like 17, and he told me, "You're a quitter, and when times get tough, you quit. And I'd like to see where you are in 10 years. I'd like to see where you are in 15 years, because when shit gets tough, you pack it in. You pack it in because it's too tough for you. And when the shit gets tough, you quit." And I was like, "Is that right?" And we're like this, is it? And I remember I turned around and my friends were like, they couldn't believe it. A teacher and a student going nose to nose. And when I started playing golf in 1981 and golf is hard to play, I would pick my ball up and I would tell this guy, "Hey man, I'm leaving." "Where you going?" "Yeah, I'm going, I forgot I had to go do something," but I was quitting because it was tough. And then one day in the car, like in those movies, his head showed up like in the movies. And I pulled over to the side of the road. I said, "Shit, this guy was right." And I went back to the high school. He was still coaching. And I went and apologized to him. Maybe the only person I'd ever apologized to in my life, because we would just pretend people didn't exist if you didn't agree with them. And I went back there and he said, what are you doing here?" I said, "Hey man, I came to apologize to you for the way that I treated you when I was here." And then I went over the stuff and he shook my hand and he said, "There might be hope for you." But in all honesty, I don't think I could have gone forward if I knew that guy was right and I didn't go over there and apologize to him.
Damn, love that. I love that.
Huge, bro.
I was never a guy that would be by the, that's the man thing to do. I was always looking to not be responsible.
When did you start realizing you had the chops for comedy, where you were like, man, were you, if you weren't up on stage, you were just jawing with your friends and bullshitting and just trying to, what were you that class clown guy, or what was it?
On the way to school, a guy would be like, "How many times have I told you to stupid? Get out of my car." So as soon as that guy was done talking, I would say to my friends, "How many times I told you to get out of my car?" I could do the voices of everybody that was in the neighborhood. "Get out of here, stupid!" So those guys were tripping, man. Like they were like, "Man, George could do anybody's voice, man."
Hell yeah,
it was fun. It was fun, and those guys, like, I'm still friends with a lot of the guys, and to look back and see that everything that I've wanted to do, I've done, is pretty wild, especially because I was never a student that I knew when I was 11 I wasn't going to college, but it doesn't mean that I was worthless. I just made my worth somewhere else.
What was there a point when, it was obviously the high school years, but in early years, in 20s or something, where you're like, man, I've made it, or at least I know I'm on a path, man. I'm on the other side of any doubt. I'm on the other side of that asshole that was telling me I'm never going to amount to shit.
I was working, I live with my grandmother, my grandmother, I tell everybody, for Latinos, I was 33 when I moved out, just a boy. Nobody ever wants to leave. When I was a teenager, my grandfather said to me, "I'm going to charge you $50 a month rent so that you understand what it's like to pay rent and what it's like to have obligations. And when he died in 88, I owed him $2,800 in rent.
Hey, George, I think one of the coolest moments here with Marshawn is I remember, he's playing the Raiders, and I get connected with you through our mutual friend, a great friend, Pat Monahan from Train. And you come to the game, and then we meet. You see Marshawn before the game, meet him for the first time. And then, after the game, we go to a store in Oakland. Just an epic day. But then even fast forward about 8-10 years later, he's in your show, correct?
Man,
and Marshawn, take me through that, because I know that George has always been an idol to you in terms of everything, and your mom. Take me through that day when you met him, Marshawn, as well as the day you came on set.
Man, it's hella funny because we was talking about that one when I came to the to do the show, and my mama was all, "That's George Lopez, George Lopez." And George was, really, really fucking nice to my mom. And I'm like, George, you know what? Back up from
Yeah, no.
George.
I told his mom,
my mama all hot and shit, man.
I said, Mama, you want some champagne? Marshawn said, you trying to get my mama drunk?
Trying to get my mama drunk, George. What the fuck going on, man? What the fuck? And cause my mama is a motherfucking comedy junkie.
She is.
And I swear that she just like, if anybody know my mom or ever met my mom, like, she just got that motherly figure. And it got to a point where my mom called, like, "Oh, George in town. I'm just gonna call George." Like, "Mama, stop, don't call that man." No, he said it's cool. I could call him. So every time she go and pop out at a show, they make sure to send me a picture or FaceTime me. Hey, and I know for a fact though, my mom in good hands whenever she around George. Always make her feel comfortable. And I know it's vice versa, but
yeah, absolutely, carte blanche. But Marshawn doing our show is, when you're on TV, man, like you're always looking for advantages. And to have Marshawn do that show about the Raiders and about my love of the Raiders, and
right.
It's just, man, it just gives us so much credibility. Like already we became the show that people already start to guest star, want to guest star on. And, Marshawn's in addition to some great people that have been friends of mine. And when you call them, I wouldn't have asked, but they were like, "I think we would do a show about the Raiders. You think?" And I said, "Let me ask Marshawn." And the fact that, somebody like him would come and be there. And it was just, and he was great. It was great.
No, that was for sure. That was a fucking highlight for me. But I think my biggest highlight with you have been when we was on the fucking sideline, and you like, "Man, let me try that helmet on." Oh, and you put the helmet on with the visor. I'm like, "Oh yeah, man, that shit was big." I don't know. I got the picture somewhere.
Yeah.
Marshawn, what is this during one of your games? You just go over the sideline, you're handing out your helmet. The hell is that?
He was on the sideline of the game. I told him, "Shit, go in there and get a couple plays. See what you got. See what you got, man."
Well, remember, we all spent Mexico City together, George. Remember? And obviously, your buddy Anthony Anderson was a couple weeks ago, so we talked about that as well. But me, you, Gavin, watching Marshawn in Mexico City was pretty cool.
Marshawn almost crashed out, man. He came over to say hello to me. And he hit some pallets that had AstroTurf on them. Remember that, Marshawn?
Oh yeah, I almost bust my ass.
He couldn't handle the elevation in Mexico City. He was complaining the night before that he couldn't even get up the stairs because he was
in the motherfucker.
Like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Let me ask you a question, George. I know it's well documented, but in June you had that show at the casino. And it's interesting now. Everything's changed now with society and right. disrespect and people being nuts and whatnot. So take me through when you're on stage and when you had a heckler at the casino at your show starts yelling at you and saying dumb stuff, and you walked off, correct?
It was more than just one. And I tried to get him to be calm. If I can't talk and nobody's listening, then there's no reason to be there. So I must have said 3 times, "Hey, you guys need to get it together here. I can't go forward, man." And then I'm sure they were happy to see me. I was happy to be there, but it just got to be where they just wouldn't be quiet. It wasn't any sense in talking. It just would get out of control. And I was like, if they're not going to respect what I do, then I'm gonna cut out.
Did this happen though 5-10 years ago as well with Eddie Murphy and you and other comedians? Did this happen back in the day, or is it more recently now where these guys think they can come in and pay the ticket and yell at people?
Well, I'm not sure if that's the case, but a lot of comedians now, younger guys, they make their like bones by talking to the audience. Like I don't, I never really kind of did, but a lot of guys like that guy Matt Rife and those guys, that's their whole act is talking to the audience. And when the audience thinks that they're part of the show, then they want to yell out. And I think people were overserved and all of that. But I'm as much to blame as they are. But I just didn't see a way forward. So I'll take the responsibility. But also, you should never be where you're not respected, no matter where it is.
George, is that, what Doug's, I guess, implying too is you see a coarseness that's developed over the years. Oh, yeah. We see it societally, obviously, but you see it inside when in the rooms when you're doing your craft.
You know what? I would hate to think that, you grow up that way, but I would hate to think that this is what's in people's hearts. I think X and Instagram, it's a lot of negativity, if you don't agree politically or you don't agree with labor or you don't agree with whatever, fine. But you fucking go back to Mexico, you fucking wetback. You're just like, man, is this like really like, is that where people are, man? It's just like, wow, man. That if that's what's in people's hearts, man, I think as a world, man, we're done for, man. You get all of that stuff. Rarely does anybody say like, hey, I appreciate you for who you are and what you've accomplished or what you've given me and made my family laugh. That other stuff is just ridiculous, man.
So me and Gavin talk a lot about that shit, considering like, they ask me about when you go to away games and, the fans, how they treat you and shit. And, just, hollering at Gav, like, yeah, when I walk through shit, crowded places and shit, and how people come and approach and attack you and shit like that. It's more so like God damn, like this the only thing that you see from me, or you want from me. You get your opportunity, to have that moment with me, and this is the route that you choose to take. Like it's a little fucked up feeling, like damn, I try to do a good thing here, but you want to turn it so fucking wicked. Like I have that side if that's the one that you want to, to get to. But I was somebody had, put a bug in my ear that you had a situation with previous governor. So Gavin, you might want to tread lightly, but okay. you had some shit going on with Arnold.
Oh man,
did you guys get into it?
Arnold was for English only, and I was like, dude, you don't speak English. He was for migrants, like getting an ID. I'm like, what the? I was like, no.
You ran into him at a boxing match or something?
Oh my God! I'm at the boxing with Mayweather and Shane Mosley, and there's two empty seats next to me. I'm like, I wonder who's gonna sit here. And I look up, and Arnold Schwarzenegger sitting next to me, his son Patrick, and I said, "Oh, this is a little bit awkward." And he goes, "No, I know. You say FTP to me, fuck that bull, I know." And I was like, and then they put the camera on me and people went crazy, and they put the camera on him and they started like, oh, and then I leaned into his camera. I went like this. I went like in front of his camera. But, me and him would go round and round. We did a thing with Clint Eastwood, and he was like, I want to thank you tonight. It's been great. George, thank you for your comedy. And he's like silent, I love that shit. I love that shit.
Oh, shit. I don't know, man. George, you would have had to call the reinforcements in on that one because that's a big motherfucker.
Yeah. I was like, oh my, it's crazy, because you don't think that that's going to be him. I'm like, I wonder who's going to sit in these two seats.
Yeah, God damn, man, that's crazy.
I look over and there he is, but like, oh, it's a little bit awkward. Yes, I know.
But George, you've never been afraid to speak your mind, which I appreciate, man. You've been that way the whole time, and I love that about you. And you're not afraid to do that unapologetically. And even I remember when Gavin got elected governor, you call him and say, hey, what about this? What about this? What can we do better? And I appreciate that mindset you have, because most people don't have that, but you're unapologetically honest at all times, which I love.
Yeah. I don't know if I was always that way. In 2007 on Father's Day, I played, it tells you what kind of fathers we both were. I played with Donald Trump in Bedminster at his course. And he came in on a helicopter, I said, hey, you need a ride out there? Came in a helicopter. And after we went to go eat, of course, he orders without us. He just orders without us even looking at the menu. And he's got this long bratwurst with like a pound of, putting on this mustard.
Lizzie
at his country club in Bedminster, right? So all of a sudden the kitchen doors open and these Latinos come in with like a surfboard of like steak and shrimp and guacamole, pico de gallo, tortillas, and Trump is like, what's all this? and the guy's like, Senor Trump, George Lopez. And he's like, wait a minute. So when Trump is here, Trump doesn't get this, but when George Lopez is here, George Lopez gets all this. The guy's like, Senor Trump, George Lopez. And he goes, but I just want to understand. So I got a bratwurst, and then George Lopez, the guy's like in Spanish, goes, pinche Trump, estás diciendo cabrón, fuck George Lopez. All the staff came out.
Yeah.
Oh,
George, some motherfucking love to a real.
But listen, this dude, man, you cheat in golf, you cheat in life, man. I mean, you're only cheating from yourself. This dude, I was on the 18th hole. He and I were playing these other two guys, and I'm in the sand trap, and I was getting ready to hit. He throws a tee in the sand trap. He goes, tee it up. They're not looking. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Tee it up. I mean,
unbelievable.
I've had my things with, and more so, when I believe that I have to be the person, because there are a lot of Latinos that went silent during the Trump things, but I didn't. And I think it cost me a significant amount of audience, but there was no way, almost like going back to high school, there's no way that I was going to let this guy say those things about us culturally and not be able to say something. I said, if they're going to build a wall, they better build it in a day, because if they leave that material out overnight, that shit will be gone. I mean, that was I said, we'll take your beer if you put it down. Hey, the Secret Service came to this house. The Secret Service said to me, they said they have, first of all, Gavin, they have everything you've ever put on social media at their disposal. So before we get into it, they said, do you remember retweeting a picture of
his head, right?
El Chapo holding the head of Donald Trump? And, I'm trying to be all like pendejo, my attorney right there, trying to be all stupid. I'm like, El Chapo. Oh, I'm like, is he one of the Fantastic Four? They go like, no. Open the briefcase. They show it to me. I'm like, oh, all right. And then the Secret Service agent says to me, do you think that this is funny? And my attorney's like, don't answer that. And I was like, I got to tell you, when I did it, I thought it was funny, but right now I don't see any humor in it. But when I retweeted it, I thought it was. But right now, nothing.
By the way, what did they follow up with you? That was it. I mean, that would scare the hell out of anyone, right? I mean,
they came. They said they came to see whether I was a threat to the president, and what got me in trouble was the Iran had offered alleged $80 million bounty for Trump. And on Instagram, I put in there, we'll do it for half. That started this whole thing.
Ouch.
And then they consider that a threat against a thing. So I told the Secret Service agent, I said, listen, man, and the lawyer's like, don't answer that. I said, hey, wait a minute. I said, what you take as a threat, to me, in my culture, it's more of an estimate. I said, if you can find somebody to do it cheaper, hire them. That's just my point. They didn't think that shit was funny at all.
George, are you still as vocal now as we get into November now as you were?
No, I don't think I am. I think, I think that if it's required, I will be, but I think that I don't think it's required as much, and I'm a comedian, I'm not malicious. I mean, I'm just, that's just what we do. It's just what it is, Yeah.
I mean, just on that severed head stuff, Kathy Griffin.
Yeah.
I mean, she paid a huge price for that.
Yeah.
As well. So, I mean, the stuff's serious. I mean, in the context, obviously, we could talk about this, spare me this stuff that Donald Trump retweets. So we can get into that. That's a whole nother sewage that we can go down.
Also, it's crazy, man, because the Secret Service, they said, maybe you'd like to take a look at this paper. They bring out this paper, and my attorney looks at it, he goes, we're not signing this. And I go, what is it? And he goes, it's them allowing the government to access all of your medical history and all your family's medical history. And I said, I thought you guys do that already. And they were like, no. And then I told the Secret Service, I said, does anybody ever sign that? And he goes, no.
No. Oh, by the way, did George, I'm surprised. I mean, knowing Donald Trump, did he reach out when he first came down that escalator just to check in with you and say, come on, George, you're a buddy of mine. We're golfing pals.
No.
Never did.
No.
Interesting.
I don't begrudge anybody's political view,
Yeah.
But when it gets to the point where it's like that, like with death, I mean, listen, that got death threats, the guy, there was a guy named Caesar Sayak, and he was living in his van. He was like a kind of former bodybuilder. He was living in his van in Florida, and he was making pipe bombs, and he had a list of 100 people that he wanted to blow up. And I was on the list, and D.L. Hughley said, am I on the list? I said, did the FBI contact you? He's like, no. I said, well, then you're probably not on the list. And he's like, well, why are you on the list? And why am I'm not on the list? I said, dude, are we really arguing about who should get blown up and who shouldn't? You're not on the list.
Shout out DL.
He's like, what? He goes, do you have the list? I said, I don't have the list. They just told me I was on the list. So the FBI, the Highway Patrol, LAPD, sheriffs, park rangers, everybody gets on a conference call, and they go, George. I said, yeah. So, I'm in New Mexico. George, we're here from all of these law enforcement agencies. And they said, what we would advise you to do is to not open any suspicious packages that might be delivered to your home. And I said, okay. And then what else? And they're all gone. Like they all hung up. Don't open any suspicious packages, So I said, as Mexicans, a lot of times people deliver things in foil, or an old, I can't believe it's not butter container that has food in it. I'm like, hey, am I supposed to throw that shit away? Like it might be some bomb ass tamales. It could be some tequila. I said, I'll take my shot, But most of the shit that gets delivered to my house is a fucking suspicious package. I'm like, I can't start throwing shit away. People work hard.
Oh man, it's gotten serious though. I mean, with Trump's that assassination attempt. I mean, and trust me, on the receiving end of similar to those death threats. So, I mean, it just as well, but it does go to the coarseness of this. And I mean, I thought it couldn't get worse than going down a damn escalator and talking about rapists and, the rest. And then, I mean, and I thought, okay, this is the end. I remember that early on, George, remember the tweet with the Taco Bell, right? Just the happy Cinco de Mayo, which was benign, but just goes to the character, just who the hell this guy is.
I try to watch as much of him when he's speaking, because I don't think we'll ever see anybody like him again. I think when he's gone, there's nobody behind him that will be at that level that has no clue as to protocol and no clue as to what's right and wrong. Like, how can someone just believe everything they're saying is true? I mean, very different. Yeah.
So it goes back to Doug's point. I mean, you've been out on the front lines of political commentary, social commentary. I mean, you've been a cultural icon. I mean, did that all just come naturally, or is that just lived experience? Is that what great comedy is? Is that just being fully expressive, being authentic self, and just talking about the world you're living in and expressing it just out loud?
I think part of that came from from being a comedian. You open as you live. You open your eyes. But I think seeing people that worked hard and them get disrespected by people just because of the way that they looked or the way that they dressed or what they did for a living was what got me kind of going, you know. But you know, in stand-up now, like Jeff Bezos has an $80 million plane. Jeff Bezos is the richest, maybe the richest man in the world. He's engaged to a Latina who's been married like twice with 3 stepkids. And I mean, Jeff, you can find anything on Amazon. You probably could find a Latina with no kids, you know. So the idea that the richest man in the world would go in there, I mean, to me, hats off. I mean, the last thing any smart Latino wants to be is a stepfather. So the idea that this guy just says, "Hey, baby, come on in, all you kids, come on in here,
pack it up, come on."
I mean, you saw the shit. You look at Ben Affleck. Have you ever never seen one dude more miserable and being married? And Jennifer Lopez is posting a selfie with her ass. It's almost like, next. Anybody wants some? There it is. Next.
Line them up.
You can't survive that. The minute that divorce isn't even final, they're already taking pictures of the ass. Like, next.
Damn.
Hey, George, take me through. It's well documented, but for the listeners that don't know, you know, you were going through it. And I remember you talking about, you know, just belief and whatnot. And Sandra Bullock, you had a kind of an infamous meeting with Sandra Bullock, who believed in you to a point where it left you emotional, correct? And that started. Did that start the Lopez show, or what? Take me through that meeting you had with her, and how that came to be.
It started my first show I was about as far out. Let me tell you, man. I was at the comedy club. I was drinking in the 90s, late 90s. I was drinking a lot. Terrible act. And I remember I was in Austin, and Sandra Bullock lived in Austin. And Chappelle had been there the week before, and the manager of the club comes to me and says, "I think Sandra Bullock's going to come in." She called. She's going to come in. And I was like drinking. I was like, man, I don't want her to see me like this. You know, I didn't even know her. And I got on my knees in that fucking green room, and I said, please don't let her. I didn't even know if I was going to know her in months or years or whenever. I wished her not to come.
Wow.
And then she didn't come. And then I think a year and a half later, she was looking for comedians, and somebody said, "Have you seen George Lopez?" And she went to go see me, and I'd already kind of cleaned up a little bit. And then she saw me, and she's like, "Come to my office." And we sat there for like 3 hours. And then, you know, that first show that I did had never been done successfully on TV. We did it. And then at the end of she was leading me down these stairs. And at the end there, I told her, "Hey, you know, what you're gonna try to do has never been done successfully. And if I don't ever see you again or whatever happens, I just want to say thank you. You know, just thanks. You know, thanks for today, and thanks for." And I'd never had anybody believe in me. And she was like, "Why don't you worry about being funny, and why don't you let me worry about everything else?" And man, I got in my car, man. I was in tears, man. I mean, she changed the direction of my life and my, you know, everybody that's in my family. I mean, and for no other purpose other than she just thought I was funny.
And then she became executive producer, correct, on the show.
Yeah, and she did the show a few times, and was, you know, very. I mean, she came to the tapings and stuff like that, and I mean, I wouldn't be anybody without her.
And then the show now, George, this is well documented. This is about your life, right? This is your life. You've written it, and this is pretty much your life, correct?
Yeah. This one, yeah. I was divorced. You know, I got divorced with my wife, and I didn't speak to Mayan for. I'm not sure if it was. I'm thinking the show is 10 years, but it was years, man. And I mean, you know, I only have one kid, and I didn't want to become that father that didn't spend time with his kids, and whatever issues my ex-wife and I had. Those years that I didn't talk to Mayan were brutal, man. And I was very self-destructive in that time. And I was still working, you know. I don't think anybody really knew the level of self-destruction. But the fact that, you know, Mayan did a TikTok about a guy that was talking about me, you know, cheating on her mom. And the producer saw it, and that became Lopez. Gavin,
Wow.
you can't write. There's no way that this in the real world doesn't happen. I equate it to the beginning of the Beverly Hillbillies when he's hunting and he shoots and he hits the ground and oil comes up.
Oil.
This is about as wild as the Beverly Hillbillies shooting and then end up in. Nobody makes a successful NBC and network show from a fucking TikTok.
I had a great conversation with your daughter when we came to when I came to shoot the show, and she gave me a little bit of background so to see that come together and then actually be a part of it. Like, I'm first of all, I'm thankful to have been able to be a part of it, but to see the relationship that that you and your daughter had took the initiative to build, like that's a fucking blessing, big dog.
Thank
so
you,
I want to tell you, I appreciate it. I wanted to say what's up to your baby girl too, because I was not expecting that.
Yeah, she loves you.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult to succeed in TV and then to do it 22 years after or 20 years after my first show, and then to bring your kid with you is amazing.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. That's
amazing.
Blessing, man. It just what it showed me was like, man, no matter how far gone, the trials and tribulations and shit, like, once you take that pride and that ego and that chip off your shoulder and get down to the nitty-gritty of what's really important. Like, man, you could accomplish a lot of shit once you let that shit go. You're talking about the negative energy and negative intent that a lot of people have, like, to be able to put that shit to the side and be able to accomplish something bigger and greater. It could have been easy for both of y'all just to say, hell no, fuck it, I'm not fucking with him, or no, I'm not finna fuck with it. But to be able to put that shit aside and then go on and create something.
A lot of people do that. When I went, there was a therapist at the house. It was a Sunday, and this was a really nice house, man. It's like the house the TV show bought, right there in Toluca Lakes. And I drive up, man. I'm like, I'm gonna miss this fucking house, man. It's like, and I go in there, and then Mayan's laying into me, really for the first time ever, like really just yelling at me and cussing at me, and I, deservedly. And then when I got in the car, I was like, fuck this house. But I wasn't in there that long. I was like, man, I'm gonna miss this house, and it got real. I didn't expect it to get that real in there, and I was like, when I got out, I was like, whoo, man, I wasn't expecting that. I went right into the buzzsaw. But I took a lot of the heat, and I took a lot of the responsibility. I didn't try to pass it off. I accepted my the things that I've done. I don't think I'm that person anymore. But and I won't blame it on my upbringing, because I think that's just a thing. But there are things inherently, that people take with them, and I think isolation was one of mine.
Did you guys have to do some therapy together, George, you and your daughter, to kind of get through it? Because obviously I could tell I would imagine animosity and pissed off anger, all that stuff she had. Did you guys have to go through some sessions together, or probably still do?
No, we did, yeah. And I don't know how long an elevator takes to get from like the 5th floor to the lobby, but that shit, it just felt like years. And if it stopped and somebody got out, I'd be like, oh man,
yeah, man, that generation.
I mean, more so because I'm an only child. I really don't communicate with anybody in my family, so it's really just mine.
So you breaking that generational trauma.
I'm breaking that generational trauma.
Man.
I don't think that. I think, I spent a lot of time alone. I've always spent a lot of time alone. And I think in comedians, a lot of times, now you can go to college and become a comedian. You have a degree. But I came from the era where your life was a little bit fucked up when you became a comedian, like Richard Pryor and all the dark characters that were comedians. I had a dark side, and now guys are TikTok famous and make millions of dollars, and they have a happy life. I didn't come from where comedians had happy lives. It's almost like when you're a boxer and your fists are the only way out of the neighborhood. The humor was I didn't have a plan B. I was not even sure what I would be doing, but I didn't. I used all of those things that made me afraid, and then turned them into comedy. But I still spend a significant amount of time alone.
Well, it's amazing, George, what you've built in your career, when we go out in public, whether we go to a game or whatever it may be, or go to your show, I mean, you're universally loved by everybody. It's insane. Whether it be, you know what I mean, Marshawn, whether it be 12-year-old, 15-year-olds, or 80-year-olds, or 60-year-olds. I mean, literally, George, you can't go to a Raider game without that entire stadium going nuts.
We walked right outside the door. I think we got about 10 damn feet. I'm like, I'm done with this guy. I got to get the hell
I know, man.
To the, you know, I don't know where we were going, man. It is a hell of a thing.
But it's, I like that. I mean, I appreciate the respect when you see young kids and you see people like that, you know, that do that. I remember, you know, when I was a kid in the 70s, and we would get toys for Christmas, you know, and a lot of them weren't new. You know, people would. I don't even know where they got them. And then in like 2004 or 5, I woke up in the morning. I was like, I wonder if people still do that at my school. And I called over there. I forgot how many years had gone by since like 73 to 2005. I called over there and I said, hey, do you guys still give toys out for Christmas? And what year was that? I said, 73. And they're like, no. And I said, well, Gavin, I thought 73 was like 7 years ago. And they're like, hell no. So I said, hey, I want to do it. So I've been doing it for almost 20 years. And when you see those little kids there, like I saw a little kid in first grade, and he came up to me and he was like, you're real. That's what he said to me. You're real. And that's a shit that gets to me, man.
Well, George, is it interesting? I mean, you know, your day when you started out, your shows, you'd have to go to in front of 200 people, 50 people, whatever. Now these comedians can put some reels out there and might get some hits and likes, and all of a sudden they become famous. It's a bizarre day, correct, now. We talk about all the time with Marshawn and talking about mentoring these young kids in the NFL and me as an agent. It's hard sometimes now with the way the social media is, especially in your profession as far as, you know, comedian, as far as what these guys do now versus what they had to do when you grinded back in your day.
You know, like there's a saying, like whatever shines the brightest doesn't last, you know, and a lot of times, you know, these guys if you look at YouTube and you look at influencers or whatever, somebody said to me, what do you do? I'm an influencer. I said, what's that? Where you get other pendejos like you to try to swallow a fucking teaspoon of cinnamon without coughing? Like, you know, there's a whole we guys eat Tide Pods, and you know, they look at the attention that they get, whether it's on YouTube or when they go out, and then when that starts to dwindle, there's a lot of them that don't survive. Like they either commit suicide or they OD, whatever. They can't that adulation, they're not prepared for it, but it doesn't last. You know, everybody knows it doesn't last, but also they're not prepared for the shift, and they you know, they don't make it.
Yeah, the grit and the grind that motherfuckers put in back then, it's like it prepares you. It prepares you for the success and it prepares you for the failure. But the thing is, it's like, you know, just like you saying, it's like right now you just get on there and just try and do the most outlandish shit and then hope it catch. And then if it do, like, all right, cool, I'm gonna ride this train for as long as I can. And then when that's up, it's like, okay, now what's some more crazy outlandish shit that I can do to try to keep this buzz going for me. But I mean, you know, when you look at it, I mean, and you think about it, like all the long nights that you really put in to really, I mean, establish yourself in the places that it take you. And then, I mean, you know, the drug, like, you know, one of my guys, Lil Goof, say the root of all evil ain't money no more, it's clout. And I mean, that shit has been like something that's been taking individuals, shit, like you said, it's been taking their life. Because when you get in that position and it's like, all right, it didn't work. And it's like, oh, well, don't nobody care for me. Don't nobody love me. No, that's not the case. It's just that everybody don't have the same attention span to that one little crazy shit that you did. And since it didn't hit for you that way, oh, my life is over. I don't know what to do. And no, it's get your ass in the lab and grind for some shit. That's all it is.
That's it. I mean, you know, I would tell these guys, I mean, they would say, what did you realize coming up? It's like, if you want to get to the next level, I said, you're going to have to put them up. At some point, you're going to have to put up, you're going to have to show what you got in maybe not the most perfect situation, but you're gonna be times when you're gonna have to you're gonna have to deliver more times than not, because you put them up and you don't make it. Everybody just leave, man. Everybody just leave. So you just got to put them up. I remember when I hosted the Emmys in 2005 with a bunch of different comedians, and I looked out and I saw all the Sopranos and Will and Grace and 6 Feet Under and all these people. And in the middle, Robin Williams was in the middle. Saw me and he went like this to me. Like this. Yeah. He said, "Ese vato." He went like this. Robin Williams was a great guy.
George, I remember I had a privilege of being with him on a weekend in Washington, D.C., and I was with him and his agent in the back of a limo, and we surprised folks at a comedy club. He was going to do his big show. I think it was actually for the Democratic National Committee. It was another one of those big Clinton things. And so the night before, he's doing what you guys do, which is grinding, all that hard work behind the scenes, putting those dukes up. And he did a little comedy thing, didn't tell anyone. We went in the back, we snuck in the back, no one knew. And we have a surprise guest, ladies and gentlemen, Robin Williams. Place went crazy, 60 people. And he's grinding, does his stuff, he's iterating. We get in the limo, and the agent, I'm about to talk to Robin, who's soaking wet. He's a completely different guy. He just was quiet. His head was down. He was soaking wet. And he said, "Don't say a goddamn word." And we went to the hotel. I remember walking back down the hallway, the hotel, and he went into his room and he said, "Bye, gents," just quietly, like completely spent, because he was putting everything out there, just grinding in order to prepare for that next night. And I guess it's just a reminder of your craft, man. It's just you constantly have to grind and reinvent yourself. There ain't nothing easy about what you do.
In the early 80s, there was a canary yellow Rolls Royce in front of the Comedy Store. And I was with my buddy Ernie, and it was Richard Pryor. It's Richard Pryor. So they go, "There's Richard Pryor by himself in the car. The car's idling." And my buddy's like, "Go say hello." I was like, "Fuck, man, it takes me like 20 minutes to walk over there." I get to the window and I look in, and he's got a micro cassette recorder and he's listening to his set. You could hear, and you could hear the laughter. And I kind of backed up, and he goes, "What happened?" I said, "Hey, I saw everything I needed to see."
Wow. Yeah. So I've been watching you since the Lopez show. We talked a little bit about it, but when I get to the set, and I don't know what to expect, because this is my first time actually doing, something in front of a live audience, the way that it was set up. So when we walked in and I actually see real people sitting in the damn stands and shit, I kind of like froze for a second, like, "Oh shit." And the PA like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's good?" He like, "No, you just froze." And I'm like, "No, I didn't froze. What you talking about, man? I'm ready to do this shit." And as the closer I got to it, my palms started sweating. Got sweat beads running down my face. I'm like, "Oh shit." Like, no, this shit real. So when I get on the set, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, "Oh shit, I got to remember all of these fucking lines. I got to give them on cue." And then like to sit around and, not just be looking dumbfounded, and to think like, "Oh shit, this is a whole different level of commitment. This is a whole different mindset." Like, the whole shit was just completely different, but it made me appreciate you even more, because now I'm thinking like, "Oh, and you do this shit week in and week out."
Yeah. And you did great too, man. You did great. You did great. Oh, bro, because your personality, he came out and grabbed his dick. All the ladies were like, "Oh,
oh Jesus." We've been talking. We've been trying to talk to him out of that, George.
No, man, fuck
ain't
that.
nothing right about that.
Yeah, I had to be who I
everybody was
was.
like, "We can't keep that one," but we just, for the gag reel. I mean, you just have this thing, man. Like you were fine, man. And then the director Phil Lewis, he was, he said, "Hey, man," he was a big Raider fan, and Marshawn, he wanted Marshawn to tackle him. Marshawn,
my boy TC,
pick him up. It's like the 3-step hit, pick him up, and then drive him into this mat. That's like, it's bad.
Yeah, man, that shit was to me, it was one of the most I say, like, for me, like, nerve-wracking things that I have done, considering I've been on the biggest stage, played on the Super Bowl twice. I've acted in, some movies. I mean, and by far that when I'm looking around and I'm like, ooh, shit, like you really got to deliver right now. And then when you came out on the fucking set, it was a whole different fucking type of energy. I'm talking about Jim Plunkett. We was just all in like, oh shit, like we actually in a moment of, it was like greatness just all around. And when you stepped on that motherfucker, you could just feel your presence from everybody. And then it was so fucking sharp on how everything was being ran. Yeah. Like it gave me a great fucking deal of respect. So I remember them nights when I'm watching your show on.
Well, listen, I mean, I saw Bottoms. You were fucking hilarious. I think you have a career in movies.
No doubt. Well, it's funny, George. I'm at the Super Bowl and I'm there with Paul Rudd. And so Paul Rudd says, "Hey, I want to talk to you about Marshawn." And I'm like, God, what does he ask me about Marshawn? And he's like, whatever movie he's done, I've seen Bottoms twice. Whatever he wants to do, I'm in. You tell me when and where. I said, so I call Marshawn, said, Marshawn, Paul fucking Rudd says whatever he's doing, he wants you in or vice versa. And that's his respect Marshawn's getting now in that field, which is, again, kudos to him and rare because it's a testament to what he's done in terms of his career and to be that way now, which is awesome.
Marshawn's he's got it. Whatever the it factor, he's got the it.
Hell yeah, hey, George, I appreciate it. That goddamn experience was one of a.
But Bottoms was one of those movies like in the 70s movies where it's just funny all the way.
Porky's.
Really good.
Yeah, that shit was That
was really Porky's. Good. Really
Emma.
Good.
Aging you, Doug.
Emma.
Hey, George, just you brought up Pryor a couple times, and I love that anecdote about just hearing him with the cassette tape and just constantly just perfecting the art. Do you have any hacks like that? I mean, are you constantly reviewing tape? Are you looking at old tape, or when it's done, you're just moving on? I mean, how do you constantly stay on the leading edge?
We get them all transcribed. They get sent to the house. I divide them and separate them. And then, I'm doing another special at Dolby here in LA, probably the last one, September 27th to 28th.
Where's the invite, George? We're all coming.
It's always there. It's always there. I want to show you guys one thing. So I used to write on these those Mead, those spiral notebooks.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote this on 8/6/1979. I said, I know at times I can't make it, but eventually I will. I'll hit the American people like a hammer. I'll be the best. I was upset. What was
79?
Wow.
I was and I'd never written anything to myself. I mean, that right there, I'm not even sure what inspired me to or how it's still in my possession after all these years. But that's for a fucking 18-year-old kid to write that to himself is crazy.
Did you find that? Did you find that years later, or did you keep that?
It's always been with me.
It's always been with you. Okay.
And you do any? Are you constantly writing now? Are you not constantly? I mean, is it journaling or writing, or is it jokes, or is it just reflections on your day? What?
I think it's all. I think it's a little bit of all of that.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of like almost they come to you in your head, or there's things you write about, or things that when you get older. I mean, it's all that stuff I have to do older. I tried to run. Hey man. I run like a dude that found gold. Remember those old miners when they would run when they found gold? I looked at myself. I said, I run like a dude that found gold.
Hell yeah.
Hey, George, let me ask you the question. It's interesting because Marshawn always talks about, he was infamous in talking about, take care of your mentals after that Green Bay playoff game.
Right.
You look at these like players now and all the athletes, and they're on social media after a game, and you fumble, people want to kill them, or they score a touchdown, they want to take them to dinner and love them. And there's a question for Marshawn now too. With you guys in this field and you being on the road as much as you are, do you find yourself looking at social media and seeing what people thought of a show or how they reacted to a movie, or you pretty much stay off of it?
You know what? I kind of stay off it because I'm 63, man. I ain't got time for that shit. I ain't got time. And I tell Mayan, like I said, Mayan, what if 100 people like you and 100 people hate you? It's like, it doesn't matter. What they say don't matter.
Amen.
I mean, I appreciate it, but it doesn't matter.
No, I agree. But as you know, it's consuming these young kids these days like no other.
I will say that if I was 13 in these times, I don't think I would have survived. I don't think I would survive. I don't think I could survive social media.
Hey, man,
If I was a teenager.
I got a 13-year-old. Doug does too. I mean, trust me. I mean, what is it? Comparison's the thief of all happiness. I mean, I don't know how the hell you can be happy watching social media, comparing yourself to every other goddamn version that's out there. I mean, it's stealing our youth. I couldn't agree
more. The shit on there, fake as fuck.
Fake as shit, and people
fake as
hurt each other, and it's not real. You know, it's just not. It's not. I mean, it's just terrible. It's a terrible thing, man.
Hey George, on a lighter note, you're a golfer. Give me your dream foursome that you go golf with. If you had to give me three other people you go golfing with, dead or alive, who would they be?
And don't include Trump. He's off the list.
Elvis Presley, Martin Luther King. I think Lee Trevino's still alive. Carlos Santana.
I love it.
I just saw Santana at here. I mean, San Francisco. You know, Carlos Santana is still making music, man. I mean, this dude was at Woodstock. I mean, dude took acid. No, not acid. He took some form of that. Whatever turns your guitar neck into a cobra. That's what he was on.
Hey, Marshawn. Before we let George go, take him through your meeting with the Grateful Dead. I was thrown kind of a side by that. I loved it because I'm a huge Dead guy. Take George through Mickey Hart and the Dead and the show you did.
Nah, man, that shit was it was mind opening, but more than anything, what I took away from it is because a lot of people play a lot of shit on race, and just the fact that I was able to have a conversation with this, older white man, and to see that we have a lot of similarities in the way that we approach life. It just showed me how much more we are alike than we are different. And just, the way that he lock in, when he doing this set. And then, I had the chance to go and to see him in the Sphere out here in Vegas. And I was just thinking to myself, like, God damn, this motherfucker old as fuck, and he's still packing out shows, and it all come off of just his mindset. So then, that type of shit, it give me hope as long as, like, all right, continuing to, because he said it, like, we beat to our own drum, like, anything outside of what's in us, we don't let that shit consume us.
That's right.
And I'm like, damn, you know what? That's interesting as fuck. But then, it was really like, because that's not the type of music that I'm gonna put on and I'm gonna listen to.
Right.
But then hearing this individual who, could give me some background on, the style of play that I had and was able to, incorporate it into, his mindset and him doing music, that shit was, it was really interesting, but it really just showed me, like, no matter what, like, the biggest thing in which I think, a lot of people, might overlook is, the mindset that it takes in order to, continue, to be great and not just because we in a time of this social media shit and everything is to put out, but to be able to really hone in to who you are and live that shit and have that be your truth, that shit is something special. So, man, regardless to just a little bit to, the social media after you do X, Y, and Z, it's not that. The first thing I do after whether it's a game, a TV show, a commercial, or something like that, is not, I go and run to the internet to try and see what people are saying, this, that, and the third. But just along I might get on there and I might run through some shit and I come across it like, oh, okay, yeah, that was cool. But I don't let that shit make up who I am, and I'm not chasing after, the clout or, the oohs and the ahs, or, the spitefulness that I would get from hearing all these individuals talk about, whether, oh, that shit was trash or, oh, that was great, this, that, and the third. But more so just like, at this point, it's like, if I say something, then, you feel me, I mean it, I stand on it. And that's just what it is. And there's nobody out there that's going to make me waver against or put me against myself, because then you get put in a position of where that shit kind of lead to self-destruction, trying to please everybody. And so, I mean, that was more so the takeaway that I got from him. And to see that motherfucker, I think he like 90, 99 or something like that. And to see that he's still rocking the same way and selling out, you feel me, those shows and shit, it's like, all right, I might be on to something. You know what I mean?
Well, by the way, you know what I'm under right now, Marshawn, and I think we have to make this happen. And George, this is I'm gonna put this note out right now to CBS, NBC, ABC, Netflix. We need a Lopez and Lynch TV show.
We can do that.
George, I'm not playing. Lopez and Lynch, Gavin, what do you think?
This Doug doing his agent shit again. There
yeah. Lopez and Lynch, Gavin. This is a hit show right here.
Like a talk show.
He turned
like a talk show.
I'll let you guys be the creative behind it, but you guys, Lopez and Lynch would be a hell of a show.
I think one of the reasons Marshawn is so beloved and so revered is that your integrity. You have always been of integrity, and as a player, as a person, and I think you may have had some of the fucking best quotes that I've ever seen of anybody. But that's what drew me to you, and it made us friends. Like I'm proud of you, and I'm proud that we're friends. Gavin, same way. Doug, same thing. Is that there are very few people you can count on as friends, and I can say that I appreciate you guys and mean it. Not have any other thing other than just it's the truth.
That's real talk. And man, just the fact that even though it still fucking had me like, mama, what the hell you doing? But the fact that my mama will hit you when she know you got a show in the Bay. And I know that's probably not, I know she probably send you just random text messages like, hey, just saying what's up, doing her mama thing. But
I sent her some flowers too. I sent her flowers too when she was
right. So yeah, man, I appreciate that. But just the fact that you don't take my mom for granted just because
I love her.
Marshawn Lynch, mama, like it's a real genuine respect between you two. Like, man, that shit is a blessing, man. And I really got a lot of love and respect for you, for that amongst all the other shit that you do. But I mean, the fact that you made my mama feel comfortable with reaching out to you like she actually.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Hey, she sends me messages to get tickets to other shows that I'm not in.
No, but yeah, like George, honestly,
that's mom for sure.
But George, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. We talk all the time.
This is great. This is the best hour, man. This is the best hour of my year.
You're a great friend, George. I love hanging with you, man. And
Anytime,
we're going to be there in September. Send us a date on that. We'll be there live in September to see you.
I'll see you.
Hey, George, in the spirit of Marshawn, I love that Marshawn's now a deadhead, but I love one of the, shit. I don't know if it was, I don't know exactly who said it. It may have been members of the Dead, or it may have been Bill Graham talking about the Grateful Dead. He said, you don't want to be the best of the best. You want to be the only one that does what you do. And he was describing the Dead, and it's a great way to describe George Lopez, brother. You're authentic. You're the real deal. And it's been great to have you with us, man.
Thank you, guys.